Hello and welcome to Video Game After Live. I'm your host, Joe Lunghi, and joining me today is my panel of experts.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Tyler, and I have an objection. Experts is a very strong term.
Yeah,
You know,
if anything, we need a stronger term for who we are.
It's almost not correct enough.
Yeah.
I just try to give you guys the credit I think you deserve, and I think experts is the best way to describe the people sitting before me right now.
I would have
I would
taken
say
artisan.
Or Supreme Overlords of all gaming. I think that one fits more.
You know what? Then that's the name of my new band if that's not the name that we're being called.
Maybe next episode I can tweak that for you guys, but for now, this is what we're sticking with. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. This is a very special episode. This is the first episode of Season 21 of VGHL.
Woo, woo.
We are now legal to drink alcohol. This is very exciting. Still no alcohol in this podcast.
Why do we not have alcohol like during the podcast to celebrate that?
Because you can't do that.
Well,
It's not
yes,
okay.
we can.
No, I'm not
Drinking
allowed.
is
No,
for
this is
nerds.
this is a dry podcast. I'm
Just saying,
afraid.
we should shotgun a beer on podcast just for the sake of the joke.
You can go shotgun a Diet Coke and pretend it's a beer.
Disclaimer, Video Game Hour Live does not endorse shotgunning.
But that's okay because if you guys are thirsty, I got a tasty icebreaker for you guys,
Ooh.
all warmed up.
Look, if
That
there
was
is
a-
one thing I know, Thomas is always thirsty.
All right, that's great. So today we're playing one of my favorite ways to start a podcast, the Game Name Game. I thought we'd bring it back again. It's a classic.
Game name,
Does
name,
everyone
game.
know how to play?
I have no idea.
So basically, we're gonna get a letter. We're gonna decide on a letter randomly. We're gonna go in rotation, naming games that start with that letter. If you can't do it within 10 seconds, you're out.
I
Just go
remember
till one
this.
person's left.
Okay.
Sounds
the way
good.
We're gonna pick. You three are gonna pick the letter. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Ashley, go.
6.
Thomas,
4.
7.
it's 7.
It's always 7.
Tyler, pick a letter.
M.
We are doing M, and I will start. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. No more Mario games are allowed at all.
Well, all right. There it goes. All of them.
Mega Man.
Crap. Marvel versus Capcom.
That's good.
Metroid Prime.
Shoot.
Does that
I'll forget
eliminate all Metroids?
Yes, it does. Monkey. No, that's not one. Okay, I'm out. Got it. Ashley, you're up.
Magellan Big Buck Hunter.
Is that a...
It is.
All right.
It's an arcade
I'm
game.
not going to fact check you.
All right.
I think it's by Magellan.
Monkey Ball.
It's Super Monkey Ball. It's not Monkey Ball.
That's
You
what
are
got
out.
me.
Is there
Not a, there's not a regular monkey
There's no
ball.
regular
Nope, it's
Super
only
Monkey Ball. I
Super.
fact checked it because I said Monkey Ball before in a previous episode, and then I fact checked it.
Poop wiener.
It's
All right, I'm
definitely
done.
Super
Two
Monkey
people.
Ball. I'm
There
going
we
to say
go.
Magica.
It's a good one. Ashley, we suck at this.
Minecraft.
Save it.
How
Save
did
it.
none of us
What?
think of Minecraft?
Tyler.
Magic the Gathering Online.
Oh,
All right, nope, the counts.
Oh. That takes out all the Magic games, doesn't it?
You have 5 seconds.
Does Magic Duels count?
No.
Oh, okay, then I'm done. Can't think of one.
Muramasa, the Demon's Blade. All right,
but that-
Tyler, congratulations.
You guys can't see it, but I'm bowing right now.
That was the fastest we ever got through that game.
Yeah,
Well,
rusty.
M was a bad letter.
You
That's
picked
my fault.
A mean letter.
I think we've done that letter before too, which makes
You
it
picked a
even
mean,
worse.
malicious letter.
So with the icebreaker done, we're all nice, warmed up. You know, you got your toes in the water, all feeling good, shaking off that rust. Let's talk about
Rust starts with R, though,
right.
not M.
Next time we'll do all.
Get out of here.
Did you guys have a good summer?
Yeah,
I did.
Sure.
Did you play any video games over the summer?
I played a ton.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Let me know. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna talk about all the games that we played this summer. So
Nice.
because there's probably a lot,
Yeah.
I just would look for like a list. Tell me all of them. Give me that order, and then pick one game specifically that you want to go in depth and talk about. And we'll
Okay.
have a little discussion here. So,
Sounds good.
Tyler, do you want to start since you won the icebreaker?
I mean, sure. Summer started 3 months ago, so
That's right.
I'm trying to cast my mind back. Let's see. I started playing Persona 3. I didn't finish it.
Yeah, you messaged me about that.
Yeah, I never finished it, and I can go into detail about that later. I played To the Moon, which is absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
I played Gone Home.
All right.
I started playing Ori and the Blind Forest actually like 2 days ago, if that counts.
I'll allow it. Everything up till now is acceptable.
I have played a disgusting amount of Rock Band.
That is disgusting. That game's old.
Rock Band 4.
It's
is not
crusty.
that old.
I'm sorry. The problem isn't that it's old. The problem is that it's Rock Band. Continue.
It's a good,
Ooh.
All
it's
right.
a good game.
That's throwing a lot of unfair shade.
I'm sorry. That was uncalled for.
Rhythm games get a bad rap.
DJ Hero.
DJ Hero. Okay. Don't get me started on DJ Hero.
I'm gonna ban this tangent right now. I'm gonna put a stop to this.
I'm gonna ban us ever just
Oh, yeah.
talking
I
about
played,
DJ Hero.
You're right. It's blacklisted.
I played Fire Emblem Echoes: Shadows of Valentia.
Okay.
Gosh, what did I play? Because I went on vacation a lot, so there's a lot of time that I didn't have to play video games.
Could have brought that Switch with you, man.
I don't have a
Switch in the
Switch.
tropics. Oh,
I
there
have,
we go.
I don't have money. I don't have a Switch.
That's fair. You
I'm
got
a-
3DS.
I'm a poor college student.
Well, out of any of those games, are there any you want to highlight?
Um,
Want to go in depth? Tell
well,
us a little bit about
I
it.
promised I'd talk about Persona 3 and why I didn't finish it.
Would you rather talk about a game you haven't finished than a game you have?
Well, I mean, I could talk about To the Moon, but talking about To the Moon would be the equivalent of me talking about how I cried like an idiot because that game is fantastic.
I think that sounds much more interesting because I am not even familiar with To the Moon. I'd
Oh.
love
Yeah,
to
I'm not
hear
either.
what that is.
Oh, okay. So, To the Moon, I'm trying to find out the best way to describe it. It's kind of like, I guess the core gameplay of it is kind of like, almost like a dumbed down point and click adventure where you're like clicking around the overworld and you do stuff, but it's an entirely narrative driven game.
Is this a PC indie game?
It's a PC indie game. It's on Steam. It's like $5 or $10.
Got it.
It's really short. Takes like, I think it took me 3 hours to play the whole way through.
Okay.
But essentially, the premise is you are a pair of scientists. Actually, there's two main scientist characters who work for a company that go and visit people who are dying and try to fulfill their dying wish, but like in their brain. So like the you go to visit this old man named Johnny, and like his lifelong dream was to go to the moon, and so you go into his head and you go through his memories, and you try to like alter his past memories so that he can go to the moon
In his head.
in his head.
So then he can like die happy?
Yes,
I see. Okay. I can see how that could get emotional real
it
fast.
gets
Yeah.
very emotional.
I'm starting to choke up already just thinking about that concept, actually.
No, it's really bittersweet.
Yeah, that sounds actually really cool. Is it just one scenario? Do you only go to that old man, or do you do? a couple
You only
others?
go to that old man.
Okay.
But I believe another title is being planned in the same like universe. So
As the same set of doctors or whatever going.
I
to-
believe so. Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have no idea when that would be out because this game came out in like 2012, I think.
Oh wow, so oldie.
Yeah, it's kind of an older one. And but yeah, it came out in 2012, and the sequel, as far as I know, as of like 2 months ago when I played the game, the sequel was not out yet.
Okay. Got it.
So I assume it is still not.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Let us know when the next one comes out.
Yeah, no,
We'll do
but
something
I
with that.
highly recommend that game. If I were to go back and edit that top 5 Steam games under $10 list that I made, I think I would probably have a new number 1.
How did you come across this? How'd you find it?
It was recommended by a friend, actually.
Okay.
I was gonna say, we're seeing a lot more of these like narrative-driven games, like not like gameplay-driven, but like narrative-driven. And I'm really liking a lot of them, like things like The Beginner's Guide and God, what was another? Gone Home.
Stanley
another
Parable.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
Gone
like,
Home was
any of
good.
those.
So good.
Stanley
Oh, yeah.
Parable is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, like when your focus is the writing better be good.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Thomas, what have you played this summer?
all right, this summer I kind of went back and ended up playing like a lot of things I'd meant to play for a while.
That's great. You're working
So
on that
did I-
backlog. I
Yeah.
love it.
So I went back. I'd beat Dark Souls 3 in the past, like a long time ago, but I'd never beat the first or second one. So during the summer, I'd gotten both on Steam, like the Game of the Year editions, and I went back and played through the first and second and all their DLC.
Wow.
And like fought every boss, and God, I loved it. And I think actually it's now become like a competition between Dark Souls 2 and 3 is which one's my favorite.
Wow, I was not expecting you to say that.
Yeah.
I thought you'd tell me one was your favorite.
Honestly, I think I'm internet aggro community, please hear when I say the worst Dark Souls game is still a fantastic game, but 1 is probably the worst Dark Souls game.
Have you played Demon Souls?
I have not.
Okay, just wondering.
You've got all 10 of our viewers worked up into a frenzy.
Yeah, they're all
I'm sure.
so angry
Well,
right now.
I don't think it's as clear cut as internet mobs would make you think. I think there's
No.
a lot of people who love 2 and a lot of people who love 3.
And I will say the main problem I have with 2 is that it does become a huge boss grind. Like Dark Souls 1 and 3 have like 15 bosses in each one, maybe, like in default, and that's including like side bosses. And Dark Souls 2 has like 48.
And a ton of side ones too.
Yeah, it's like
optional.
It's just insane. Like you feel like you're barely. The overworld is massive in Dark Souls 2, especially. I mean, even in comparison to 3 and 1, like it feels a lot bigger. But
And another thing is how it connects to each other too is a big feature. Of you
Oh,
go
yeah.
up the elevator famously and you come out and you're on top of like a volcano in this lava place, and it makes like no sense. And some people hate that. That's some people's favorite
But it
things
sounds
about it.
awesome.
and it
It
feels
sounds so cool.
it feels really cool when you're playing the game too. It's like, man, I mean, again, even I talk about a boss grind. It's like, man, I just fought this big old boss. I'm sliding up this ladder or whatever. Like, I wonder what's next. Boom, lava pit or something.
Yeah, it's like this dark wonderland kind
Oh,
of.
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I'd say, like, in terms of really capturing that feel of what I've always described the setting of Dark Souls, it's like the fantasy post-apocalypse. And, like, 2 and 3, I think, capture that better than 1 did.
Okay.
1 feels like you're kind of in this abandoned area of the world until you're, like, in Anor Londo, and then you kind of get that feel. Like, 2, it feels like the whole time I'm standing in the ruins of something that was bigger.
Yeah.
And, like, 3 especially, you're going through, like, the ruined villages that are, like, burnt out and destroyed. And I think, like, it really captures that, and 2's overworld had a lot of interesting, like, puzzle mechanics and whatnot, which the other games don't really have much of. Like, a lot more, like, environment interaction in that one.
Those fake walls, man.
Yeah.
Always get
To
me.
be fair, I think people who are looking to play a puzzle game aren't their first thought isn't like, oh, I'll play Dark Souls.
Oh, yeah. Which, to be fair, like, the combat feels still super fluid, too, in Dark Souls 2. I still think 3 probably has it a little more fluid, but just because they had the time. Though, poise works in Dark Souls 2, so that's nice.
They fixed it in 3.
They made it so now it's, like, during attack frames is when poise factors in, is what I remember reading.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's not like poise is a constant thing, which is another thing. When I played Dark Souls 1, I wore Havel's set after a certain point.
Is
It's
Havel
like,
heavy?
Havel's is the highest poise of any armor in
There
the
we go.
game.
Okay.
And like nothing could stumble me. it didn't feel fair after a certain point.
Gotcha.
Like I say, as someone who's never played a Dark Souls game, describing just going up an elevator to a giant lava pit, you've sold me on this game, and I want
Oh
to play
yeah.
it.
You should definitely
It sounds awesome.
Dark Souls 2 is like the like I'd say like the biggest boss grind of any of the games. And even then, I'd say, like, but Dark Souls 2 has a lot of kind of forgettable bosses. Is probably its worst features. They had so many that they couldn't make them all feel as unique. It also had some very memorable ones.
What's your favorite?
My favorite boss in Dark Souls 2. There's... The Fume Knight is, like, the hardest, so...
I don't know if I fought the Feud Knight.
He was one of the DLC bosses.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but,
didn't
like,
do DLC.
yeah, like, pure difficulty challenge-wise, that one was a very interesting one to play through.
What did you think of the Sentinels?
The Sentinels?
I will always remember the Sentinels.
I remember, because I had started Dark Souls 2, and I got past the Sentinels, and the first time I played, like I said, like I hadn't beat any Dark Souls games up to that point, so I had so much trouble, and I had to summon phantoms.
Yeah.
When I played it through again on my PC, doing like Scholar of the First Sin edition, I didn't breeze through them, but it was much easier. Like now that I really, really knew the mechanics and really, really knew how I liked to play it, I soloed it and I like got through it, and it was actually a fun fight. Like that, I'll put the Sentinels up there with like one of my favorite fights in that one.
I remember that one, and the other one that always sticks out to me is like that gold knight in the King's Tomb near the end of the
Oh.
game. That one was really cool.
That was a neat one. The Feldstat,
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Fighting the king was kind of interesting in that it's like, it's this easy boss fight to get in and attack, but he has a lot of health. Even if I know it's like his defense goes down the more the giant souls you have on you. And I had like all but one because I didn't want to kill the ancient dragon. So I guess I did not do one boss fight in Dark Souls 2. Well, I mean, I had no reason to kill him. But then again, yeah, I was gonna say, like, that game makes you feel like guilty when you do certain stuff. Dark Souls 1, like, one of the more memorable boss fights to me was fighting the wolf, Sif.
Yeah.
Great Wolf Sif.
Yeah.
Because I just felt guilty the whole time.
It starts limping.
Yeah, and he's like defending his master's tomb, and you're there raiding it to steal something from him.
Why
and
would
it's
you
like,
do that?
Because you have to get that item in order to get to the end,
So
like
you're
to defeat the big
you're
bad.
like Lara Croft if Lara Croft was an asshole.
Yeah.
It
And
sounds
just,
like that, yeah.
I felt guilty the whole fight with Great Grey Wolf Sif. Like, that is one of the fights that affected me emotionally the most while I was playing the game. And he just, like, lets out that, like, pain squeal as he dies. You're just like, ah, you're the best boy.
Well, it's so cool that you went back to those games earlier in the franchise, and you might even love 2 specifically more than your favorite of 3.
And again, like I said, like, just because I don't like 1 as much as 2 and 3 doesn't mean I don't like 1.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed my time with 1, and it's a very good game.
That's so great to have that feeling of they all hold up to you in that way.
Oh, and the other thing I went back and played, I played the Walking Dead Telltale games for the
Season
first
1?
time.
So did I.
Season 1, 2, and 3 I
Wow,
played
the
through.
full marathon.
Yeah, well, because I'd gotten Season 1 and 2 for free with Xbox Live Gold,
Okay.
and I'd just been sitting on them for so long and never played them. So I was finally like, I'll do it. And I remembered Episode 1 started kind of weak in the first season, but, like, after that point, like, God, it just, like, picked up and it never let down. Like... And then Season 3 I ended up buying right after I finished Season 2 because I was like, I really enjoyed this and I got to see where it goes.
So thoughts on that? Did you love 1, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, 1 was fantastic. 2 was also great in other ways. Like, playing as Clementine was interesting.
So tell me about 3.
3, I was turned off a little bit at first because you play as like a completely new character, like somebody who wasn't in the other 2 seasons.
But Clem's still in it.
Yeah, Clem shows up like near the end of Episode 1, and she's with you like more or less the entire way. Depending on your action, she's either directly with you or she'll leave for a while and then she'll come back.
Or she's dead in a ditch. I don't know. I haven't played.
I actually
past
think
season
that's like
1.
one thing. Like, Clementine won't die in Season 3. That's like a big part of that.
Well,
which they set up for a Season 4.
Season 4, you'll
which,
come back to Clem and you'll wrap up the whole Walking Dead thing.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
they said Season 4 is going to be the last season, and like I was hooked in like Season 3. And they did a great job of like emotionally connecting me to this new character, so I did care about him, and I really liked his story, and going through it, seeing how it changed, how it progressed, and just interacting with the characters. Like, it was a good cast, including obviously Clem.
So Season 3, not really a letdown in that case? Like, it still managed to keep your
Honestly,
attention.
yeah, I think Season 3, like, it threw me off at first because it was like completely new person. I had no idea that's what I was getting. I just jumped in after
you didn't
finishing
even
2.
know.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at any of the promotional material,
They
so
MGS2'd you.
yeah, for real. But like then when I actually got into it, I was like, I like this a lot. I like how they set things up, how the New Frontier as a group works,
Okay.
and yeah, I really liked it.
Have you played any other Telltale games?
I've played The Wolf Among Us and Tales from the Borderlands.
Finished both those?
Yeah.
Do you like both those?
Oh God, they were great.
Okay.
Wolf Among Us like is one of my favorite, I think, overall. And then Tales from the Borderlands made me laugh my ass off the whole way through.
So you're real high on the Telltale train right
yeah.
now. Dang.
I have Telltale Batman if you want to play it.
I would love to. Actually, I've heard some good
I
things
heard some
about it.
people say they really like it.
Yeah. I have heard that apparently the Game of Thrones one isn't so great,
Dude,
but
I've
My
been
understanding
meaning to
is
play
that's
Game
the
of Thrones,
weakest,
though.
yeah.
It looks so good. I watched a playthrough of like the first bit of it, and it looks fun.
I know, and I've only watched like the first season and a half of the show, and I know apparently it picks up at like Season 3.
I'm in camp.
Watch it.
No adaptation lives up to the books. So
But yeah, like I think Telltale does a pretty good job. It's like if you're fine with QuickTime events, the writing was really strong. The writing of the Walking Dead games is a lot stronger than the show, in my
yeah,
opinion.
for sure. That's not controversial.
I didn't know that was not a hot take.
That is not a hot take. The Walking Dead TV show is
Has some-
it's terribly written,
I thought
honestly.
it was beloved for its writing.
It is beloved.
Some people
because
like it.
It's beloved because it relies on cheap cliffhangers to keep you watching.
So
And
this is a hot
edgelord
take. You're telling me
attitudes,
this is
yeah.
a hot take after all. You're all just making the same hot take.
A
So
little bit.
it's like it's a split.
It's
I wouldn't
badly
say
paced,
it's
right? Like that's my understanding.
it's not an incredibly hot take. It's probably like 60-40 people who really like the show, people who think it over relies on cheap cliffhangers, and the show is 5 minutes of interesting setup, 50 minutes of fluff, 5 minutes of interesting cliffhanger.
Wow.
Huh.
Sounds
That's-
brutal.
That's accurate to a fault too. Like I tried to get into the show and like I couldn't. I would get halfway through the episode, I'd be like, "There's nothing here," and I just turn it off.
And the character writing's just weak in the show to me. Like, the biggest thing I hated is people would make incredibly dumb decisions that weren't motivated by their character. And I was
That's
watching
my
one
favorite thing
episode,
for
and like,
characters to do.
I hate it. It's like, I get people make dumb decisions, and your character should make dumb decisions because that introduces conflict.
Yeah.
But make that a dumb decision that is understandable for who they are.
And
or
rationally
like, yeah.
motivated.
Yeah.
You want
whether
characters
they're like-
making dumb decisions motivated by who they are. Keep
Yeah.
watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, but like there was a I forget his name. He's the dude who wears the hat, and he's like he's super quiet and like normally really reserved. There's a scene where he's like, "Oh God, a car alarm's going off. Better just drive the sports car down the highway and lure all the zombies over here."
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's just bad decision making and poor pacing kill that show, like bad character writing. And the Walking Dead game, yeah, characters make bad decisions. I made bad decisions as the characters, but like it felt motivated by like the character and like just being in the moment. Like you feel like you had motivation to do the wrong thing sometimes. Like first season Walking Dead the game, that farm you go to. Everybody here's played it, right?
Yes.
No. But it's
no.
okay. I don't
Dang.
care.
Oh. Well, anyway, I killed 3 people in front of a young child.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, but it felt when you're in the moment in the game, like I was like, these 3 people need to die right now. I don't care who's here. Like I'm protecting people, I'm keeping people safe, and these fuckers gotta pay.
I remember first time I played, well, I guess, yeah, well, the only time I played Walking Dead Season 1, when you're on the farm, there's like, basically you're given a choice and you have to try to save someone at like the expense of the other person.
Oh, that's the first farm. I'm talking about the second one.
I'm talking about the first farm.
Okay.
Let's get to the 5th farm. That's when it really picks up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I legitimately just froze up and couldn't decide, and eventually the game like takes over for you, and one of the NPCs like runs in. But it was like it felt realistic, and I was like, that's cool. Also, I'm a terrible person, but that's cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, but then the last thing I want to say, this last thing I'm playing, Prey. I just picked
Oh,
up
boy.
recently.
Dude,
Alright.
it looks so cool.
That's my game of the year pick right now.
How many hours in?
Wow.
I'm about 10,
Okay.
and like God, I love it. It's like BioShock. I mean, everybody tells me it's more like System Shock, which I've never played, but I understand that's like BioShock's like the spiritual successor of System Shock.
They're all in the same loose category of like they're
Of
an immersive.
games that
It's an
have
immersive
shock in the
sim.
name.
Oh yeah,
It's
and
a
this
PC
game,
immersive sim.
of all of them, like I feel like it plays really tight. The environmental interaction stuff in it is fantastic. The story has me really interested, even like, and for a story and a world building wise, like just looking at emails, listening to audio logs in that game, the world is super fascinating to me and feels really weirdly human for how like crazy high concept it is.
Yeah, because it's like super out there, hyperbolic. You're in space and there's aliens. Like
Yeah.
you're not grounded at all.
And
but
yet
it's able
it
to
feels
retain.
it does that really well. Like even like you find one of the weapons you can get in the game is like this Nerf dart blaster thing that looks like a crossbow, and you find like internal memos, emails, people like talking about like making this just in their off time just for the hell of it. Other people talking about like, man, these engineers fucking sitting here shooting Nerf darts at me are really annoying. Like, and I don't know, it's just like little things that they do that make the world feel really alive.
Feels genuine. Feels human.
Yeah, and it makes me like want to play more of it because of it.
That's going to be a hard sell for Game of the Year in a year when Breath of the Wild comes out, so I hope you're ready
As
for
someone
that.
who played through the entirety of and beat Breath of the Wild, which I loved,
I'm gonna
Prey is my game of the year.
Oh yeah,
I'm
we're
a-
not.
we're
I'm
gonna
not
stop
getting
this
into
tangent.
Yeah,
argument.
let's stop
All
this
right.
tangent.
Ashley, hit me.
There's only one game that matters at the time that this podcast is coming out, and that is Destiny 2.
So we're just throwing all the summer games you played out the window.
I have played a ridiculous amount of summer games. None of that time matters over the past 2 days I've spent playing
You don't
Destiny.
even want to, like,
I've played...
rapid fire me real quick?
Okay. The entire Halo series, I replayed it, because I do that, like, every summer.
Okay.
Good.
I played the first Destiny a ton in preparation for this one.
Of course.
Understandable.
And I played a lot of, like, Grand Theft Auto 5 and just stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But Destiny 2 takes all of it. I have literally been playing... The game came out yesterday, the time of this podcast.
I thought it came... Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Okay.
I have played 14 hours of it already.
Okay.
So, I am really tired, but it's so worth it because that game is... It's like a movie. It's amazing. The story in it is perfect.
It's like a movie. It's amazing.
Are we talking about Destiny or Metal Gear Solid?
Destiny, dude. Like, I swear, the first game had no story whatsoever. You had to read all of it. So the first game was a book. This one's a movie. So...
Interesting analogy.
So you're saying
Yeah.
I'd like the first one better?
Possibly.
Well, hang on. Okay, so
But-
what makes this amazing? You're telling me they've incorporated the story more?
They've incorporated the story more where they have, like, fully fleshed out cutscenes that are, like... It's basically like playing a Halo game where you have, like, the really good cutscenes that are, like, 4 or 5 minutes long between missions. It's, like, gives you the whole story of what's going down and sets up each thing that you have to do later. On top of that, there's so many more things to do that even after, like... I've played it for a day, and I'm 60 levels away from max capping it. Even after I cap it, it's going to be enough stuff to do to keep me entertained until the next DLC, which should hold me over to the DLC after that.
Have they already announced when the first
Yeah,
DLC is
it's
dropping?
it should be close to December, I think, somewhere around there.
Sounds about right.
And it's like themed on Osiris, so anyone who's like a big Destiny fan knows like who Osiris is
Ah, yes.
and all that
He's
stuff.
the
Nice.
Egyptian god of the underworld.
Yes,
He's
you're
a
exactly
big
right.
dog.
In Destiny lore, that's who he is.
I cannot tell if you're messing with me
And
or
a
not.
new- Anubis.
I am messing with you right now,
Okay.
I promise.
He's actually a big cat.
No,
No,
Anubis is a dog.
No,
As
He's
some-
a jackal,
Yes.
specifically.
As someone who bought
Jackal? It's a jackal.
As someone who bought Destiny 1 at launch and gave up on it and sold it before any of the DLC even came out,
The DLC made that game.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Is Destiny 2 worth buying for someone who didn't like Destiny 1?
Vanilla.
It is. It is set up to be like it even starts differently depending on if you played the first game or not. So, if you played the first game, it like does this whole intro that's like, here's your memories, here's what you did, here's who you did these things with. So it tracked who was in the game whenever you did individual things for the first time, and like it shows you what you did up to this point and
They
the
gotta
date
make
you did
good
it.
on that promise of the carrying over.
It's so good. And then nothing else carries over but your stupid character model. But oh well.
Woohoo!
It's fine though, because there's way too much stuff that if all my stuff carried over, I would be overloaded right now.
Sure.
Because if you didn't play the first game, this one explains all of the stuff you would need to know because there was no story in the first game really quickly, and you're able to jump in and enjoy it. And I think that it also has payoff for people who've been playing 3,000 hours the way I have.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hours.
I have put too many hours into Destiny.
So
we've
what,
heard.
What makes this story good? What makes these characters compelling?
Okay, so basically the story is set up as you're a guardian, right? Guardians basically can't die. They get rezzed all the time.
You gotta
if
protect
they
the
die.
light.
Yeah, you gotta protect the light.
So,
Gotta protect that light.
so
Big
it's,
boy, Big boy Gaul, he shows up, he takes your light. He's like, this is mine now. And he just wraps up the traveler in a net. And he's like, can't have it no more. So now you don't have light. You're a guardian with no light. So you can't come back if you die. So then you gotta go find where to get more light. So then you gotta get more light and you gotta stop Gaul.
Wait, what's the plot reason for resurrecting them when you die?
Now you can't do it. Basically, he's like, he took you on this like high horse where you're like, I'm a guardian, I can throw myself at anything, I'll be fine. And basically said, not anymore, you won't.
But when you die in game and get resurrected, what's like the logic of how that's possible now?
You get to light before that would happen. So, in game,
Okay, all
you
right.
don't die
Got
before
it.
you would get to some more light to be able to res.
I mean, I'm fine with not having a story explanation for
I was just
respawns.
wondering,
90%
since
of
they put-
games don't.
Since they made the trouble to put it in there in the first place, I
right.
would want there to be one once
There
they took it
is
away.
explanation once you
Okay.
get there.
Okay.
It's pretty spoilery if you explain it, but basically, like, if you've seen The Traveler, you know the bottom of it's all broken off and stuff, like, on the cover of
So
the
do you
game.
find like a shrine?
Yeah.
A shrine.
There's a shard.
Shard.
There you
That's
go.
the word I'm
you
looking
got
for.
it. There is a shard, and you have to like get to it. And basically, Gaul is like this megalomaniac leader of an army that's defected from a race of people that blow up planets that get in their way. And he basically wants the Traveler to have chosen him. He feels wronged that the Cabal didn't get chosen to be the Guardians over us. And so he shows up and he basically wraps up the Guardians, the Traveler, and he kidnaps the Speaker, and he basically holds them for ransom and says that the light's his now. And so you have to figure out what to do without light for a good while. And then once you get light back, you have to slowly earn your way back up to be able to stop this army that showed up and took your stuff.
This game combines the plot of Edge of Tomorrow and the Voltron reboot.
Yes, kind of. Actually, the dude who voices Dominus Gaul is the same person who voices Zarkon.
Those are some
there you
names
go.
there. Darius Gaul.
Yeah, Dominus
and
Gaul.
Dominus Gaul and Zarkon.
Well, Zarkon is from Voltron.
Yeah, Zarkon's from Voltron.
The Voltron reboot's really good, by the way.
I'm just saying those are some names.
They're very good names.
I want to get paid to make names like that. I
mean,
want that to be my job.
Zarkon
so
is
good.
the evil overlord villain guy. So
And
he has
Gaul.
a very evil overlord villain name.
Yeah.
It's a solid.
It's like
Overlord
Emperor
evil
Zool.
villain name.
Yeah.
Zool's also a good one.
And Gaul is basically Zarkon in a video game. He's that big of a bad guy.
Well, there you go.
There we go. Well, that sounds like a blast. I can't wait to hear more about it. I'm
It's
sure we'll
so
talk more about it on the actual episode for Destiny 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What have you been playing over the summer?
Oh, why thank you, Thomas. It's just a beautiful pass.
Yeah.
It's been a
Somebody
long...
needs to ask you questions sometimes.
Yeah. Usually I do all the asking. It's been a long summer, everybody.
It has.
So I'm going to
yeah.
give you a little rapid fire list here. Kingdom Hearts, Rechain of Memories, Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, One Piece, Unlimited World Red, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia,
Yeah.
Metroid Prime, Radiant Historia, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Final Fantasy IV a little bit, Bloodborne, Yakuza 0, Kingdom Hearts 1, Super Metroid, Xenoblade, a little bit of Minecraft, just because, I got to de-stress after a long day of work.
Gotta build some stuff.
Kingdom Hearts 2, and then I got a little bit into Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, but then got a little sidetracked with some stuff. And I've been playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as well, because I did buy a Switch, so I'm finally able to play that game.
Joe, talk to me about Yakuza 0, because it seems interesting, but I barely know anything about it.
So Yakuza 0 is a delight. In one word, it is a delight. This is a game from a relatively long-running series. I believe the first one's 2002, 2003 for the PS2.
I did not know that.
It's come a long way. If you compare, because they've even just remade Yakuza 1 now, Yakuza Kiwami came out this month. I have not got around to playing it because I've had more than enough Yakuza for my time right now. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just so much. You can only do so much. You're basically playing as a Japanese mobster. That's what Yakuza literally means, is
I'm
picture
aware,
a mobster, but for the Japanese.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. You're going around as this young, brand new to the family sort of mobster. This is a prequel because it's Yakuza 0, so it's coming before all the games. We're up to,
sense.
I believe 6 is getting localized in a few months, and they're making 7, I think. You can fact check me, somebody. Tell me I'm wrong. So this is taking place before all the huge story stuff that's happening, and there's some characters that are brand new, and some characters that are old and familiar with, so prequels in video games are always really interesting, seeing how they play off that and, mess with the story. Prequels don't always turn out that great, especially the stories of prequels. There's so much that can go wrong. There's so much it has to build up to for later stories. As someone who has never played a Yakuza game before, this is my first one. I loved it. I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. I was really wary to jump in because I didn't want to play out of order, and I knew that, I didn't want to be spoiled for one or anything, but I'm really happy that I played it. It's just, oh my god. There's so much to talk about with Yakuza, it's hard to boil it down. You go back and forth between two protagonists. Every 2 chapters, you're sort of switching between them and watching their stories kind of weave and connect because they start off very distant from each other, and then they come and they get closer and closer, and by the end of the game, they're connected. You see how it all comes together in this giant, wild narrative arc. But honestly, the characters really drive this game for me because the gameplay is sort of B tier. The combat's really fun and flashy, but it's nothing to write home about. It's very simplistic, kind of it feels like a 3D brawler in a weird way. But the game has such a sense of humor behind it, and I think what's most notable, and I think this is about the whole series too, is just how well it can jump back and forth in tone between hyper serious, like mob movie style, and then to something incredibly goofy. Like you'll have this mini game, which is my absolute favorite thing, where you get Majima, you take him to karaoke, and he sings a song.
No.
You sing karaoke, and it's the most J-pop, like...
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible, and they'll do that juxtaposed like right after you shoot someone in a back alley, like for money, and like
It's so cool.
and nothing feels off about it. And then you'll cut right back to like these crime bosses like giving you shit, trying to kick you out of the family, trying to basically kill you. You're on the run. Like none of it feels out of place because they just nail the tone so perfectly. And I don't know how they do it.
I want to play this game.
There's so many side quests too, and like all of them are incredible. There's one where you meet like a fake Michael Jackson and you help him record, like he moonwalks down through zombies. You have to like protect him and get to the end. And then there's like, oh, you just have to play it. I can't even, I don't want to tell you anymore.
I would like to play it.
Like the most minute side characters that you only see once in a totally irrelevant side quest are just incredibly appealing and so just well written. Like you just like them. They're so likable and they just come across as full of life.
Mm. Oh, by the way, Yakuza 0 confirmed in development.
Or
seven.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what I
making
I
meant.
was about to
Seven right
say,
now. Thank
0 is out.
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 Yes.
Making 0
Yeah.
2.
I meant to say Yakuza 7 is confirmed in development. I fact checked you.
Yeah, that's real high up there for me. I haven't played a lot of like new games this year, but I was just blown away by Yakuza 0. Just very pleasantly, like, it's just a fun ride.
Yeah, and I've been told I need to play it, and now like hearing that from somebody who has only played that one that you're not missing anything by only playing that one.
You're
I think
fine
I'll
to jump in.
Yeah.
I do feel like I know a little bit about one that I wouldn't have wanted to, but like I'm not upset about it because I really just love the time I spent with 0.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
yeah, I would recommend anyone pick that up.
feel-
Support that series, honestly.
Yeah, prequel games are also like a really fun place to start because then you're starting from the beginning of a story.
Right, you're
then
still
you get to go
technically
through it.
chronological.
Oh,
yeah, it's an
Like,
interesting take.
When I went back to play the Metal Gear games, I played MGS3 first.
Right.
Started playing them in chronological order.
Mad man.
Yeah, I started MGS3. I'm like 3/4 of the way through Peace Walker, and then I'm gonna play 5 again.
You're never gonna get to 2. That's what makes me sad. But oh well.
I'll
so
get
be
there.
it. He'll get there, hopefully.
I've got Twin Snakes, and then I'm gonna play 2.
Don't play Twin Snakes.
I'm gonna play Twin Snakes.
All right, well, can't stop him now.
Why? What's wrong with Twin Snakes?
You'll find out.
You'll find out.
It's just Metal Gear 1 remade.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
So I want to change things up.
Yes,
This
let's
season.
not talk about Metal Gear for once.
It's already happened.
I want to insert kind of a new segment here. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but we don't really talk about news much or really anything of that ilk. That's a word, right? Ilk.
Mm-hmm.
So I've decided to pick sort of not necessarily one news piece, but a thought-provoking question, a TPQ, if you will. For this week's TPQ, we're looking at something that happened recently regarding the game Cuphead. There was a showing of it at Gamescom, and basically journalists got to sit down and play it, and this game is very hard, obviously, right? There's footage of one specific game journalist playing the game, and he's having a tough time. He cannot get through, like, the tutorial level, and the way it's sort of shown in video, he just looks like he has no idea what he's doing. It's this, like, platforming part where you're supposed to jump and dash, and he's just missing it over and over again. And this is supposed to be the tutorial, like, teaching you how to play the game, and he just looks like he can't do it. So this has, of course, started a bunch of controversy on the internet, and we're back to talking about, as the cyclical nature of things are, it's like, do you need to be good at video games, to talk about them, to be a journalist, to review them, to criticize them? All of that. And this isn't the first time this conversation has come up. This was last year with Doom, with Polygon especially, and this has happened many, many times before. But with it happening again now, I thought it'd just be an interesting time, because I don't think we've ever talked about it, just to kind of hear you guys' thoughts on it. So, like, do you think you need to be good at a video game to review them, to criticize them? If so, how good do you need to be? How valuable is that, in your opinion, on games?
First of all, I want to call this section Tipquit.
Tipqua?
Veto. Hard
I'll
veto.
think about it.
Hard veto.
Just throwing that out there, throwing that idea out there. And secondly, if you had to be good at video games to critique video games, this show would not exist.
That is
This is
true.
very true. This is very true.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that there was a lot of controversy with Polygon and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think people on the internet especially, but even just in general, get really pretentious about video games. And I realize that there's an immense irony in me saying this on a video game podcast, but I think, honestly, people just need to chill. That being said, it is hard to review a game that you cannot play. It's not about being good at video games, but if you cannot progress at all in the game, then you're not seeing the game itself. Now,
sorry.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, do you think you need to finish a game in order to review it, or to have a fully developed opinion, so to speak?
I think your opinion is most developed if you finish it. I don't think it should necessarily be a requirement. Caveat being, if the game is almost entirely narrative driven, I think you owe it to yourself and to the review to finish the game. But most entirely narrative driven games aren't going to be particularly difficult to finish from a gameplay standpoint. So the issue becomes, if you are like this journalist with Cuphead who cannot progress past the tutorial, like, how can you write about the game if you have seen like 1/10 of it? And maybe you can write an article, like, you can talk about the aesthetic of the game and you can talk about how the controls feel, but ultimately you can't really assess the game as a package because you've seen like the edge of the game, but you haven't actually gotten into it. Like, I'm not gonna judge an Ace Attorney game off the first case. I'm not gonna like think of another example of this because I can't.
Telltale game.
Like trying to judge it off the first
exactly.
episode.
You can't just play episode 1 of a Telltale game.
No, you can't just play episode 1
I'm
of a
trying to throw you a
Telltale
lifeline here.
Yeah, thanks. I got it,
Catch
caught
it. There you go. So basically, if there are sort of gameplay walls, then do you need to be good enough to overcome them if that's impeding your progress through the game? Like, how does that relate then? Like,
I think you should. This is a blanket statement that is almost certainly going to get proven wrong, but I think it's a good starting point. I think you should be able to get at least part of the way into like Act 2 out of 3 in a game to be able to form an accurate opinion on how the game plays.
Interesting.
I mean, some would say if you're able to get to like midway through Act 2 of a game, you should be good enough by that point to finish it because you're already halfway there, right? So,
well, yes.
I'm gonna like.
In theory, yeah.
Difficulty spikes exist.
Yeah.
Difficulty spikes do exist.
I'm like kind of devil's advocate where I think you need to be good for some things. Honestly, if you are a reporter who is at a conference to review a game, they should send someone who is able to play games.
To be fair, I don't know the details. I don't think he's reviewing this game. I think he just works with a website, and they all sort of sit down. I don't know if he was reviewing this even, so I don't want to make those kinds of claims.
Well, that's a different question.
A person in the games industry was having trouble, and that's sort of where this conversation stems off. I don't want this to be anything about this person specifically or attacking them.
But then you go off on an entirely different tangent because there's a difference between a game reviewer and a games journalist.
Right.
Now, someone who's like just reporting.
For layman's terms, I was combining the two.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like someone who is like purely just reporting news on video games should not have to have any prerequisite skill with video games because you're just talking news.
Right.
I'm talking entirely about game reviewers.
Okay. That's a good distinction to make.
Which is where my argument came in, because I was going to say, if it was someone who had to go through the game and see, yes, they would have to be good at it. If not, they can watch a Let's Play. They had their hands on it for a little bit. I think that that's enough to formulate some sort of story on.
I don't know. For me, it's just kind of like the vastness of the internet and the vastness of the kind of people who are in the game industry themselves. I think you should be upfront about your skill level, and if you're reviewing a game, if you are a reviewer, you should say, at least in my opinion, I think you should say what difficulty you're playing the game on if it's a game with difficulty sliders.
That's fair.
Yeah, as well as you should say roughly how far you got in it.
I'd love that. I think
that
that's
is
a
also
great
fair.
idea.
I think like if you're somebody like, I failed the tutorial mission, like, here's my opinion of the game as someone who can't play this well and couldn't get past the tutorial. If you're upfront about that, to me, that's fine. Like, just don't say the whole game's bad because I couldn't get through the tutorial level.
And like I said, the internet's pretentious. Game reviewers are pretentious too. And I think we should just all move to be like more upfront about things.
A lot of generalizations here, but you know, it's good.
It's good. And the internet is guilty of generalizations all the time.
Everyone is always pretentious.
Everyone is pretentious about at least one thing.
Sure.
I was gonna say, if I'm
pretentious about people who I think are pretentious.
Exactly. See, that's Tyler's pretension.
Whoa.
And I think that's kind of the crux of this point, is that there's no hard and fast rule. You can't make a generalization. You can't say everyone has to be this good or certain things, because it depends on the type of game, it depends on the genre, it depends on what their even objective is in trying to review it.
If you're playing like a visual novel, that doesn't like require skill in most cases.
Yeah.
That requires you to like want to read the text and have the desire to like experience the story. But if you're reviewing like a platformer, you should at least be able to get somewhat into the meat of the game and experience all the mechanics the game has to offer.
Which I can agree if that's what you're like saying you're doing. But I mean, at the same time, there's an audience for the kind of person who fails at the tutorial level. May not be a big audience, but there's probably some kind of audience that like, hey, I suck at video games too. I appreciate this guy's represents me.
There's values in different levels of skill
That's
for
fair.
audiences.
Because then you get like that couch co-op feel where this dude sucks at a game. You're sitting there watching him suck at it, the same as if like you and a friend were playing the game for the first time. It's like it's that kind of appeal, and I think that's fun sometimes.
And I agree. Like sometimes you don't want to watch the greatest in the world play it. You want to watch like somebody that you can like kind of connect to play it.
One final question then, which let me push you here. Do you think someone who is really good at the game, is their criticism more valid than someone who is not good at the game?
I would say no.
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a difficult question.
Yeah.
I think it's value is subjective in these kinds of things, and if you're somebody who your goal is to be the best at a game, like when you come into a game, you're not like, yeah, I want to have fun, but I'm like, I also want to be amazing at it. Like, if it has a difficulty slider, I'm playing on the hardest, and I have to beat it on the hardest, and I have to do it like solo if it's got co-op even. Like, that's the kind of guy that you're gonna listen to.
I think the reviewer who matches your skill level has more valid criticism to you.
Like, I think of myself like an intermediate level gamer on like most games I play, so that's usually who I'm looking for. Like people who maybe beat the game, but it's like I was playing on like second hardest or maybe like even medium just so I could get through it real quick to write this review. And like what they critique too is different. Like different reviewers will say like, I'm a big gameplay guy, so I'm going to go all out on the mechanics. Somebody else will be like, I'm a big narrative guy, so the gameplay could be great, but if the narrative sucks, I'm going to hate it. Like things like that.
Yeah, it's like everyone has that one game too. It's like you may want someone who's more chill for this game, or it's like if you're really into this game, you want someone who's super good at it. So there's like one person will consume stuff from all the different types, I think.
I think the moral of the story is having options is good. But you need your reviewers who are at least moderately skilled at video games, and it's good to also have reviewers who may not be as skilled.
Yeah.
You've got a wide palette to choose from.
Yeah. And I will say, like, if you're doing your review, if you didn't get through the whole game, make sure you're saying, I'm reviewing the part that I got through. Like, you can't say, this whole game is trash because I'm bad at it, when other people are good at it.
Being upfront and honest is very important.
I think this has been a great discussion, guys. I'm really happy with how the TPQ turned out.
Yeah.
What do we call it? The Tipic?
Our T's were P'd by the Q.
Tipic sounds good. I like
Tipic.
I think Tipic sounds just a little more...
I'm going to continue to call it a thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Tipic is like the marketable name.
Are you... No, it's not.
And on that...
I'm ready to ship on Tipic.
It's been episode 1 of VGAL. Thank you all so much for joining me again. I've been your host, Joe.
I've been very tired, Ashley.
I've been Thomas at about a medium level of tiredness.
I am never not tired, and I have been Tyler.
Thank you all so much for listening, for tuning back in. Please watch our show, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time. Justice for black